So we might be live. I never really know about YouTube. So setting up your meeting for YouTube live. We'll see. Some people might be seeing this. They might not. Redirecting us to YouTube. Here we go. There we go. Oh, we've got some weird feedback going there. So I don't know. Hang on. This meeting has been live streamed. Brilliant. Good. So it's the first time I've live streamed to YouTube from Zoom. So I wasn't really sure what was happening then. So sorry, everyone. A bit of a feedback loop, but welcome everybody that's watching. Welcome everybody that's watching on Catch Up, and welcome to the wonderful Lou. I am thrilled to have you here, Lou, because you, like Stacey, whose interview I did before you're another poster girl.
Wow.
Food freedom. Yeah. You know, after trying, God, years of dieting, slimming clubs, and all of that, and now 7 months on, Lou, and you are still in an amazing space.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful for you to, give us your time and share your story. And I can't wait for everyone to hear about where you're at. You had some amazing transformations working together, and I love this interview. It's going to be amazing. So before we kick off, I'm just going to read out, if you don't mind, what you first wrote when we first met, because I really do remember that first meeting, and you weren't in a great space.
No.
So just for the benefit of everyone, and then you kind of expand on it a little bit. I'm just going to read out, because I think this tells the story of how most women feel when they come to me. So you just wrote, I'm disgusted with my flab and fat. I'm a failure at dieting. I've got no discipline. I'm the fat person people talk about behind my back. She's okay looking, but she'd be so much nicer if she lost weight. It's a shame. Self-conscious. I'm not good enough. I'm a pig. I'm useless. I may as well give up. This is self-indulgent. People tolerate me. I'm too emotional. I'm self-obsessed. I'm different. Other people aren't like me. I've got no control over food and eating. I self-sabotage. I'm a disappointment. This keeps going on. I'll never change. I should give up. I'm lazy. I'm a slob. I take up too much space. I'm angry and full of rage and fury and hate, and I feel guilty all the time. And unsurprisingly, you wrote at the end, I'm exhausted. No fucking way. With all of that going on in your head, I mean, what a place to be, right?
Yeah. That's really shocking to hear. Yeah. And highlights the change in just 7 months. And that's a short amount of time, given the years and years that had all been churning around. And sounds like a different person. Yeah, I feel sad for that person, but I'm happy for the person today.
Yeah, and who is the person today? Give us a little insight into the Lou today.
Just not feeling like that. Appreciating, having some self-esteem, appreciating my worth. My worth isn't tied to my weight. Just realizing that some of the things I criticized there, like being too emotional, well, when you start to acknowledge and feel your emotions and your feelings, you just become different. So now I know how to express my emotions and understand them maybe in a healthier way. So it's not necessarily taking away things, it's just learning how to optimize, just so that you're not tormented by all those feelings of negativity.
Yeah, and not using food to push down everything.
Absolutely.
I mean, It's unsurprising when all of that was going on in your head. It's unsurprising that we use food.
Yeah.
To soothe all of that pain.
Well, it's like an anesthetic. So I didn't want to be feeling like that on a daily basis. Turn to food to block it, which was in fact feeding those feelings. And that's the cycle that the course helps you to break.
Yeah, and you just flew on the course, I have to say, from day one. You just followed the process and just got, a success after success. But just give us a bit of background, if you don't mind, about your dieting story.
Yeah, so it started quite young. Lots of focus on being thin back in the era that I grew up in the 90s. So the dieting and the being aware of how you look tied in with what you're worth, was pretty deeply ingrained from an early age. And then it was just a constant fight to try and fit my body into the mould that I thought society expected it to be in order to have any respect or value or worth or self-esteem, all of those sorts of things. So it was just a long road of all the diets through the ages, the various diets with people's names attached to them that wanted you to eat jacket potatoes all the time, or through from, like Atkins, paleo, keto, Cambridge, cabbage, the lemon juice and maple syrup cleanse. Also tried through.
I've forgotten about that one.
Yeah, with the cayenne pepper.
Bonkers thing.
Yes. I have a greater understanding now of why some of those things would work on a short-term basis on the surface, but I have a much deeper understanding now of that's just not the way to approach it. You're attacking the what, but you need to be looking at the why. So it got to a point where I thought, I'd tried everything. I tried the crash dieting, and I was exercising heavily, and I was doing not just cardio, it was weights. I was doing all that research, and I got to the point where I was so unhappy with how I looked that I was Googling bariatric surgeries, and that's when I found the Fresh Forward course.
Yeah, and I mean that's just gives a sense of that desperate place that you were in, and I say that with kindness because I've been in that desperate place, so looking for those kind of resolutions, and I'm sure other people watching this, because it's kind of like, look, I've tried diet after diet, I've tried the slimming clubs, nothing is working. So what do I go for? Because there isn't really anything out there other than bariatric surgery, gastric bypass, gastric sleeve, all that kind of stuff. So I'm so glad that you didn't go down that route, because it's such a severe route for people to go down, actually. And, under general anaesthetic, all the complications that could potentially go with that. But what it significantly doesn't do, is change all those feelings of self-loathing, of shame, of hatred, all the things that, that you reeled off on your list.
Yeah, and because I'd done quite a lot of research, and obviously we've got the benefit nowadays of things like YouTube. You've got people's stories about bariatric surgeries or cosmetic surgeries, liposuction, things like that. I suppose I knew deep down that it wasn't going to be a long-term fix. It wasn't the right fix for me, because somehow I would find my way back to old habits. You do. Your body's really clever at doing that. But I'd got desperate. It was exactly what you said. I'd got desperate, thinking that I just had to fix the symptom, whereas what I really needed to do was invest the work, in the time and the work in the underlying causes. Yeah.
So I'm just going to apologise for everybody watching, and for you, Lou, at the minute, because I've got a little puppy down by my feet who's trying to eat my chair.
Hello.
So I'm going to bring her into the picture. That happens when you go live.
Yeah, I'm surprised that my cat hasn't made an appearance.
Never, ever work with children and animals, they say.
Hello, gorgeous.
I've got an overtired puppy who's chewing the chair. So anyway, back to you. This is live TV. Back to kind of that story. I mean, bariatric surgery is such a a big thing to be thinking of, but we get so desperate that it's like, that's the only thing. But like you said, you knew deep down that actually that wasn't really the answer. It's the mind that has to change, and you've got to reprogram and rewire that, get rid of some of that emotional trauma that's driving everything, and actually looking at the reasons about why we hate ourselves so much, why we're showing up in the world as a small version of ourselves, not the best version of ourselves, and why, and actually a strategy to change all of that so that we think and feel very differently and don't use food in the same way.
Yeah. And that was the thing I struggled the most with before this, was how was I ever going to break that frustration cycle, and how was I going to stop this ever increasing weight, because that was a big focus at the time. And I just couldn't see how it was never going to stop happening, that every year it would be a size bigger clothing, feeling more unhealthy, feeling less flexible, having more joint pain. And I was willing to do anything at that point to stop the physical changes. Yeah, and exactly what you say, that starts with doing a bit of work in here and in here.
Yeah, and of course those physical changes, then we see the physical changes, we get bigger and bigger, and that perpetuates the cycle
Yep.
of self-hatred and self-loathing.
100%, and increases your just kind of, I don't care, I've failed anyway attitude. You don't give yourself much hope when you're stuck in that cycle, for sure.
Yeah. So you took the plunge
Yeah.
and you did this. I think you'd heard me on Radio 5 Live or something, hadn't you, by the time? I think that was the bit that you were then like, okay, yeah, she speaks sense. This makes sense to me.
Yeah.
This makes more sense than a gastric bypass. So yeah, you took the plunge.
Yeah.
How was it, making that decision, do you think?
So it was easy and slightly challenging, only because it was easy because it spoke to me on the levels that I knew I needed to change at, and it wasn't the invasive surgery route. I suppose the more difficult thing, just the same as if I'd gone for a surgery, that would have been a high expense. It was also the financial consideration, but which one of the options was going to give me the longest lasting, most fundamental change? And I knew it wasn't going to be a surgery route, because essentially that was just like a way more expensive version of doing meal replacement shakes. It was still like a little kind of tweak of it, or like trying to fix a surface symptom, but underneath things weren't going to change. So I finally decided that if I was going to do something as brutal as, like, surgery on my body, it was worth trying to do this with my mind first. Because I really didn't, deep down, I don't think I wanted to go through with something as brutal as that. Maybe I would have if I hadn't found your course, Emily, but thank God, literally, that I did.
And that's a sad thing, because nobody really wants to go through a brutal surgery. People don't realise actually that there's so many complications that go with it. And I've spoken to people that have gone down that route, and they say, it's all kind of painted out to be this great picture, but actually you could end up not being able to eat loads of foods afterwards, and cheat the system anyway, and all the rest of it. So yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I'm thrilled that you found this.
Well, it was partly from the client testimonials as well, which is why I was so happy to agree to do this, because I'd listened to lots of those stories of people that said, nothing's worked for me before, I'm one of them, but this worked. And also the failed gastric surgery client, the ones who had gone to the Harley Street hypnotherapists, people had tried these things. I'm so grateful to those ladies that gave their stories, because it helped me make the decision as well. So if you are considering it, it's definitely worth watching through the testimonials.
I remember.
Hopefully mine can add as much value. I really hope so.
Yeah, and I remember on our call, actually, you followed me for a while, and you were like, oh yeah, the puppy, and throwing out all this stuff that I'd posted.
And I'd watched every single client video, which
and then the client video. I was like, oh, this girl's done her research. She is ready.
Yeah.
And now, well, I suppose it's a bit fitting then that the puppy is sort of in the video.
Yeah, it's really nice, actually. I'm really privileged, so thank you for the invite to do this.
I feel like a bit of a Bond villain. I'm honest. Maybe she could be my little mascot for the binge eating thing. So you'd obviously done your research. You were really, really ready, which I think is part of the reason why you got such great results, because you just hit the ground running.
Yeah.
How did you find it? Was it what you expected? Was it kind of more challenging, more easy than you thought?
Because of the research I'd done, it was it was what I imagined. I couldn't imagine in detail what the task would be like, but I could kind of imagine the kind of exercises I'd be doing,
Yeah.
And yeah, and I didn't have any doubts that it would work for me based on the calls that we had, because I like following instruction and pleasing teacher, and and there's a few sort of personality traits when you battle with this topic that I think makes you a good candidate in a way, which is funny, isn't it? You want to do your best and prove to yourself. But I think the biggest surprise was just how quickly changes started. So I'm still changing now, 7 months after, but I had so many changes within like the first day, the first 3 days, the first week, every week, the months. Yeah. I think the biggest one was that I immediately stopped binge eating. So, that was such a relief, because when you're not drawn to binge eating, there's so much freedom and relief associated with that. And already I'd tick the box of how was I going to stop getting bigger and bigger and bigger? Well, if I wasn't doing the binging, I was at least going to stay where I was. So that's just one example of how very quickly this can happen, which is great. It's very motivating that it happens so fast. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just, like you said, the changes just kept happening and happening and happening. It was, it was just fabulous to watch, And what do you think was the most surprising thing about the whole experience, if anything?
Just how quickly the changes happened. Yeah,
Yeah,
and and it's the combination, but as long as you put the work in. So yeah,
yeah,
definitely, I was very committed to it. So and I was just so surprised at how meaningful the changes felt so quickly as well. So it really, and I think the hope it gives you, just to be able to see your way through this horrible subject that you get trapped in.
mm.
Yeah, yeah, the freedom from it so early on is just mind blowing. Yeah.
And it's such a like freedom. I don't know about you, but when I say food freedom, it doesn't actually describe how I feel about it. The feelings are almost indescribable, aren't they? Because it is just like this huge weight has
Yeah.
been taken off when
Oh
when
yeah.
we're not thinking about food all the
Yeah.
time anymore.
I mean, putting it in very practical terms, the fact that I can go food shopping when I'm hungry, and before that would have been a recipe for disaster. And you're hearing all the hints and tips from the diet culture, don't you? Oh, don't shop when you're hungry. Well, now I can shop when I'm hungry, and I don't want to go and like take armfuls from the confectionery aisle. If anything, I'm thinking, oh, what would be really filling? I know, salad and avocado, or it's just, and even when and I don't want to buy enough junk food in one go, that I would eat it all and then feel sick, and then the whole thing starts all over again. It was just that step to feel a bit more in control of my mind and my body, one following the other.
Do you know one of my favourite moments was when we met up for coffee? We met in person,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
we went into the
Cookie.
cafe, and then we both came out, and you said to me, "You're like, I looked at all the biscuits and sweets and cakes, and
Yeah,
I thought, I just don't fancy it."
yeah,
And I said to you, I remember when I got to that point, I said, and it's such a nice.
yeah,
Everything's going wrong for me today. I'm about to cough again.
yeah. Bless you.
The puppy's jumping in. I'm coughing everywhere.
Yeah, exactly that. It's just, it becomes a choice, not feeling like an obligation. Because
Yeah,
you're not coming from that place of thinking, oh, I better have it now because I'll be dieting again later, and all that negative. If you can look at it and go, do I fancy it? Yeah, and enjoy it. If do I fancy it? No. That, I mean, I know that there's not really any such thing as normal and normal people, but that to me was just that step into, this is how normal people must think about food, right?
yeah.
Not like constantly scanning, what is it? Can I have it? I can't really have it, but I want it, so I'm going to have it anyway. And then I'll start again tomorrow. Oh, it's, yeah.
But also the other thing we both said, which we both would have done, is that we would have seen one thing on that shelf, whether it was a cookie or whatever, and thought, I can't eat that in front of the other person. That's too
Yeah.
embarrassing. And
Yeah.
then we're staying in
Yeah.
our heads all day. And
Yes.
then I know my old self would have driven
Yes.
around trying to find that cake or cookie or
That's exactly
whatever.
what we spoke about. Yeah, it's almost like you can say no now with all that kind of, oh, aren't I good? We know it's nothing to do with good and bad. It just isn't that. That's just such a destructive thought process. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We both said back in the old days, that would have stayed with you. Like this little gremlin, like, oh, but when are you going to have that? And now it's not a pull like that, because it doesn't, the meaning of it isn't there, because you're not denying yourself, because you feel better about yourself, so it doesn't feel like a sacrifice or denial. And if anything, I've started to think, oh, well, actually, I don't know if I really like that. I thought, yeah, that's me. I'll eat all the sweets and all the junk and it's all good, just because I felt like that was the food that was forbidden, because diet culture and or diet mentality, and that, I like it all. But as it turns out, not really a fan of certain brands of chocolate. Who knew? So if I was going to have
Oh,
chocolate, I would choose the one I like. Back in the day, if it was the only one there and it wasn't really the one I liked, I still would have had it. But now I could say, like, yeah, I don't really fancy that. It's just, yeah, mind blowing.
everyone says that as well, and it's so true. Because I mean, I would have even scoffed, the really cheap, nasty chocolate.
Yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
like that.
I was, yeah, I was fortunate enough to be in America recently, and I don't really like American chocolate. People where I work go to America. It's an American company, and they bring back things, and yeah, the world. Everyone's like, "Oh, did you have this? Did you have?" No, don't really like the chocolate over there. And then having got back, it wasn't like I then went and bought the biggest jar of milk, bar of milk chocolate I could find. Haven't thought about it. So
Which is just
just
incredible, isn't
living.
it?
Yeah,
What a change, and
yeah,
it's just living life rather than being dictated to by
exactly.
24/7.
Yeah,
When
and
can I have this? What am I going to have? I'm going to deny
yeah,
myself.
I never, ever, ever thought I would be that person. So there's hope for everyone.
Well, I knew you would be that person without a
Thank you.
shadow of a doubt, because yeah, I just knew it. You were totally ready when you came here. You were totally done with all of that stuff. You were
Yeah.
ready to look within, because everything comes from within, and ready to put in the work. How would you describe the that inner work? People probably get a bit like, oh my God, inner work. But how would you kind of describe doing that as, really challenging or
It's part of what you said. When you're focused on just fixing the problem, as was perceived, the outside of you, you don't want to spend that time, because you just want the thing that's making you feel bad to be fixed.
Hmm.
Then that's why I was, like you say, I was ready, because I'd done a lot of reading, researching around it, and kind of come to the conclusion that if I was really going to tackle this, I had to spend the time doing the inner work. And I'd resisted that for a long time, because I just wanted to chuck money at something that would just take it away. Partly, I didn't think that it was worthwhile spending that time, I must admit. Yeah, I'm not special. Everyone has this, everyone just gets on with it. Then you realise, you get to that breaking point, like you do, where you just think, something's got to change here. I can't enjoy the look into the future if this is how I feel like it's going to be. So then once I started the inner work, it was actually really enjoyable. And I think one of the benefits is that you're going into this with a set number of weeks. So everything before that had been finding the right therapist, and then sitting for an hour or 2 hours every week with a therapist. And when would that ever yield results, and when would it ever end? And it just felt overwhelming to embark on that, which is an easy excuse to use not to bother. But then when you look at this, and it's like, okay, right, I do this for this number of weeks, that's much more manageable and much more easy to commit to. And it gives you that incentive just to start. And then once you start, you realise how beneficial it is, and actually how enjoyable it is as well.
and
Yeah.
it's a really good point about kind of when we do those traditional sort of therapy type things. There is no kind of end date. It's like, well, I've got to do this for the rest of my life, just talk about my past. Oh my God.
Yeah.
actually we've got to move forward. Yes, the past has an impact, but actually it's all about moving forward. And I guess the good thing as well from the client's perspective is that when you start this, you see people who are at different points in the journey, so it gives you that incentive
Yeah.
to keep going, because
Yeah.
not everybody is going to be as fortunate as you as like stop binging in that first week.
Yeah.
People do get quick results,
Yeah.
obviously it's a 12-week thing, but actually, somebody who doesn't get those instant results then can then see someone like you getting these results. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, great. This is,
Yeah.
really good. Keep
Yeah.
motivating going.
Absolutely. And that is, one of the great things. I didn't want to stay stuck in my past. I wanted to look to the future, and the course is a great balance of addressing some significant things of your past which help unlock so you can move forward, but it's not painful to go through. It's not drawn out, so it feels quite productive. And then exactly that, seeing other people at their different stages of their journeys reassures you that what's happened to you is normal, what's happening to you in the course is normal. If you haven't hit a certain milestone yet, people say they hit those milestones at different times or have certain results at different times. So you do realise that, while we're all kind of on a similar journey, personal journey, and we're following the same course, that it will happen for individuals at different times. It's reassuring from that point of view. Yeah.
Yeah, good. And so if you could sum up your experience in a short sentence or two, what
Oh.
would you say? How would you sum it all up?
I suppose, like, the shortest way I can sum it up is, if someone said to me, you can have all of the money back, but you have to have all of those feelings of how you felt about yourself and all of that. If you get the money, you have that back. No way, no way. Would never ever want to feel like that again. So it is worth every penny and every second to be free from that and to be moving forward now.
It's been, I have to say, such a pleasure working with you. I mean, we've laughed a lot, haven't we? When I've called you out on some bullshit stories.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's so wonderful. Like, the email that you sent me, because I'd said, I was going to feel a little bit nervous about this tonight, and you said, oh, you'll be brilliant. And I said, well, thanks to you and the course, I can accept that compliment.
Yeah, that was lovely.
That's just, and it doesn't feel big-headed or anything. It's just, this, I feel it's gone well, felt, comfortable. And this is just one of the things that the course has helped beyond the kind of dieting food thing. It's just helped me in so many ways as well. I drive more confidently. I'm more confident on the phone. It's had immeasurable benefits outside of what you think you're signing up for. So I'm really, really grateful, Emily. Thank you for sharing some knowledge.
You are very, very, very welcome. You are just amazing, Luke. You really are.
Thank you.
And I know that you believe that now as well.
Yeah.
Which is the main thing. It doesn't matter what I think, actually. That's irrelevant. It's what you think about you that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And also, I'm just going to say this actually before we end, because I do think it's important. You had a horrible, horrible bereavement when we were doing this, and you still stuck to it, and you still, gave it your all, and
yeah.
so, you still showed up for yourself, which was amazing.
Yeah. And thank you for being there for that, because when you have something like that happen, you don't know how to be on a journey that's making you feel positive, but you realise that all feelings are important. It helps you process everything in a more constructive way. So I feel that actually in the end, that was that really helped me. So it means you've got a toolkit for things that will happen in the future as well. So that's why I'm so dedicated to keeping, listening to the tasks and the recordings that we're given, and just stick with it, because, it is the start of a journey. It will be a lifelong thing, but it's a pleasure. It's just brilliant to have had the results so far, and then have the toolkit to keep in this place and keep getting better.
And that was another thing that I remember about you, actually, because every week you'd come on the call and you'd like, I just went into the toolkit, and this is how I dealt with this, and this is how I dealt with that. It was fabulous. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
You just were, and you are just your smile, your energy. I just love it. And
thank you. This is not the person that started on your course. No way.
Well, it was. We just need to peel back a few layers.
In there but unlocked. Yeah, that's a better way of putting it. See, I'm still there.
Yeah, exactly. In there but unlocked. Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. So thank you so much. Anything that you want to kind of say anymore, or we covered everything?
We've covered everything. Just, it's lovely to see you again. Thank you so much. And
it's lovely to see you.
To anyone watching, if you're on the precipice, then hopefully this means that you're confident enough to take the plunge and make that investment in yourself, because you will not regret it, I promise you.
Thank you so much. Honestly, it's just so good of you to give us your time.
So welcome.
Really appreciate it.
So welcome.
Yeah. Thanks, Lou. Take care.
You're welcome. Take care.